So hello and welcome to another video, and I do apologise, it's been a little while, but I am back with something big today, and that is this bad boy right here. Now this is something that I've been working on for a little while. Kind of set myself the challenge a little while back of building what I think is the ultimate EOS-R Cinema Rig. And I think I've got pretty close to what I would deem as the perfect cinema rig for the Canon EOS-R. And we'll go through each individual item bit by bit, but probably the first thing to look at is why you would even build something like this in the first place. Now, it's not actually that heavy, but I'm going to pop it down purely because it's in the way. So why would you even build something like this in the first place? And I think there's a couple of really good answers for that. Now, the EOS-R is a fantastic camera, and if you're a beginner filmmaker, photographer, it'll do everything that you need and you'll absolutely love it. But when you start doing a little bit more high-end productions or even short films and things like that, there's going to be certain things that you need that the EOS-R just doesn't provide. And we're looking at things like 10-bit, you know, really high quality audio, things like that, and there's all sorts of little items that you can add on to the camera to achieve those without having to go out and spend thousands of pounds on something like a Canon C300 or whatever you may need. So another good reason why you'd build a rig like this is purely for versatility. So knowing that you've got pretty much all the aspects of a basic production covered. So if I need to use a follow focus, I've got that side of it covered. I've got the external monitor. I've got basically all of my power solution and everything that I need, everything there. And I can kind of take bits off if I know that I'm not going to need them, or add them on if I think there's a chance that I will need them. So being kind of modular is another great reason to build out a rig like this. Now, I will add that there are two items that you won't see on the rig at the moment, and that is the Rode wireless mic, which I'm actually using to make this video, but I'll cut to some B-roll and show you what it looks like with it on there. And also the Mix Pre 3, which is a field recorder, it's an audio recorder. Now, the only reason that I haven't actually attached this to the rig is that this is a demo unit sent to me by Sound Devices, and I don't really want to start sticking Velcro and all sorts over it if I know that it's got to go back. But I will describe why this is a useful item to have. And also, if you hit the subscribe button, I've got an actual review of this item coming up pretty soon. So you'll be able to learn more about it within that. But again, having a device like this that will cover all of my audio needs while I'm out in the field or while I'm on a job, these are the reasons why you invest in the gear, because you know that it's going to do the job and have you covered for all of those kind of eventualities. Now, I will add while I'm doing this part that Sound Devices sent me this, and I am currently reviewing it, but it will go back to Sound Devices, unfortunately. But the vast majority of everything that you can see here, I've actually paid for or bought myself, and started building this rig before I even thought of asking other companies to get involved. The only items that have been sent are some of the cables and the battery mount from Indie Pro Tools, and I think that's pretty much it. And I think that's it. Everything else I've actually purchased out of my own money. So yeah, and I'll explain the reasons why I've chosen the items that I've chosen as we go through it. So I think the best thing for me to do is we'll work backwards. This is the rig in the hand, or more commonly you'd have it on a tripod, but we'll break it down, we'll look at each individual item, and I'll explain why I think it's perfect to make a cinema rig out of the EOS-R using these items. So let's get into it. Right, so this is the actual rig itself, and as I say, we're just going to break it down bit by bit so you can see each individual item. Now, the only other thing that I want to add is the fact that I am using the Mix Pre 3 as an external recorder, and the idea is that that wouldn't necessarily need to be attached to this rig. If you're using like a boom mic or something, like I've got the Rode NTG4 Plus here, you would have these off separately on a boom arm, and whoever's looking out for your audio for you would probably have that with them. So it would be cool to add it to the actual rig if you're doing kind of run and gun one man kind of thing, but absolutely not necessarily. Your audio would be separate anyway. So fantastic item, and don't forget to keep an eye out for the next video, which hopefully will be the review of this unit. Now, getting back to the actual rig itself, so I'm kind of going to go backwards with this and just take bits off randomly. And I guess the first place to start is with the actual power. So the beauty of using a cinema rig like this is that you basically only need one battery. And the reason for that is that obviously, you know, you don't want to have to be swapping out batteries as you're going along, or monitoring 3 or 4 different batteries to make sure that you've got power sufficient to record everything you need. So the battery that I chose, as you can see here, is the FX Lion Nano 1, and basically went for an item like this purely from a size point of view. So I've had no problems with using this, and it powers everything that you see there. Now the beauty of an item like this is it's got its own USB. It can be charged via USB as well, but also it's got that USB type A out. But with most cinema rigs that you're looking at like this, they will actually be using a V-mount battery plate. Now, looking at the power solutions, there's all sorts of ways that you can go with these kind of things, but one of the things that I was looking for in particular was a one size kind of fits all, and that was why I went for the Indie Pro Tools solutions. The V-mount battery plate was a perfect item for if I ever need to use larger batteries and things. I know that that's going to basically take the weight of it. It's incredibly sturdy, and as you'll see in a minute, I'll probably struggle to get it off the rails. It's that kind of tight and gripped on there. Now, with cinema kind of rigs, you commonly use D-tap kind of power supplies, but these days there's all sorts of things that require USB power, things like that, but I've also got the correct cables to give me all the power solutions that I need. Now these cables are very expensive, but that's for a reason. I've had problems with cheaper cables and stuff in the past and don't want to take that chance again. And these supply 2 dummy batteries, which one goes in the camera, and as you can see on the back of the monitor here, we've got a dummy battery, the typical Sony type. So this isn't actually a battery, it's just a cable that leads back to the V-mount battery plate, and that's where the battery powers everything. But because of my cable management, we'll come back to that shortly, I've got a few little bits to take apart. Now you will see this randomly wrapped up USB cable here, and that leads to our follow focus. Now follow focus is great, but it's definitely more of a cinematic thing. They'll commonly be used on kind of like small indie productions and stuff like that, sometimes in interview scenarios and things, but not that often. And this is powered over just a small micro USB. That's the actual motor unit there that will drive the lens, that will turn the focus wheel. And this on the side, if I just take it off, it's on a quick release, is a wireless follow focus. Now, if you've never seen one of these before, this is the Tilter, I forget what it's called, it's the Nano something, Nucleus Nano. So it's a Tilter Nucleus Nano. I will leave links below to all the items, and this is fantastic, especially if you're going to be using, have a second person checking focus for you and things. So great little item, but we'll take that off now. Strip this cable out while we're here. This is just a standard HDMI to micro or mini HDMI, I think it is, on the camera. So that's another cable down. And you'll see here that I've got a HDMI cable clamp just on the side, which stops the HDMI cable being ripped out accidentally. And again, this is just a small rig item. Really great tools, really can kind of, you know, change how you build things, and I'll leave links to all of these items below. Been using small rig stuff for years now and never had any issues. Okay, so as you can see at the moment, it's a little bit top heavy because we've got the monitor up here, so let's get some of the weight off the top. Now I'm using a small rig top handle with a monitor mount, and that goes into the Atomos Ninja 5. So if I just loosen that off, the Atomos Ninja 5 is an external monitor, so you would see what you can see through the camera and things, but this also has an SSD. This is a 500 gig SSD, so it also records to that. but what it also does is open up some of the capabilities of the camera, such as recording in 10-bit and various different kind of formats and things. So really useful item, absolutely loved using this thing, and at some point I'll do a separate review, but if you've ever got any questions about the Ninja, feel free to leave them in the comments below. So now we're starting to actually see the camera again, which, you know, it kind of disappears in the back of all of this. And I'm going to take off some of this kind of cable management. I just use little Velcro strips just to hold the cables in place. It's important knowing that when you're going to be picking the camera up and down on a regular basis and things, that you know you're not going to snag it on a cable anywhere or anything like that. So there you go. Now, as I say, I use the Indie Pro Tools cables purely because they are incredibly good quality. Never had any kind of issue with them, and it's one of those things where I'd rather spend a little bit extra. Although Indie Pro Tools did send me this, I would be more than happy spending the money on these, just because you know that the quality is there. Now, as I say, these use dummy batteries, so you don't need an actual battery in the camera or in the field recorder. It's all powered off the one battery. So again, it's a really simple solution. Just means that you know you can check constantly how much power you've got in the one place. And these batteries are great. Like I say, they've lasted me for a couple of hours at a time. Never had any issues with them, but you can always buy larger batteries and stuff if you're doing bigger productions. So this is probably where I'm going to have a little bit of difficulty, because this V-mount battery plate is incredibly tight. So it's all based on the 15mm rail system, and these are carbon fibre rails from Small Rig. Like I said, I've used Small Rig for years. Absolutely love their products. They're rock solid and good as gold. I can't get that off very easily. Right, yep, so as promised, had a little bit of a game getting that off the back, just purely because the V-mount battery plate is quite tight on these 15mm rails. But there you have it. So you've just basically got the battery plate and all of the necessary cables. I've just Velcroed this one on the inside of here, but also you can see that you've got all these kind of power options on the actual side of the battery plate as well as the different power options on the actual battery. But again, I'll leave links below to all of this. So let's get that out of the way there. Now you can start to see the actual camera again itself and how the rail system works. So the rail system is really the heart of things, holds everything together. We've got the cage on the camera as well, so there's lots of protection for the actual camera there also. Right, so on the front, because we're using quite a heavy lens on the front of the camera, I wanted some support, and here we actually have a lens mount. And what that's doing is, based on the rail system, it's just supporting some of the weight of that lens off the front of the camera. So you haven't got everything pivoting backwards and forwards on the actual camera itself. That's just taking some of the weight. And if I just sit that down, unscrew the front of there, you'll see the support just drops down. And then again, just on this 15mm rail system, we can loosen both sides off, and that just slides off. So again, just a useful little item, something else that makes sure that your camera gear is protected. And again, it's only very cheap. I'll leave a link below to that, and one of those kind of invaluable items. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, it's freed up the option to take off the motor for the follow focus, which again is the Nucleus Nano. Great little item, really useful if you're using follow focus on a regular basis, but one of those that I wouldn't necessarily invest in if you're not planning on actually using it. So this is the actual gear for the follow focus. You just pop that off to one side, and that wraps around the lens, grips onto the actual focus wheel, and then it will turn as the motor kind of moves those teeth. So again, just an integral part. You can buy the actual fixed, you can buy the fixed gears for these focus rings and stuff, but because I still use this as a stills camera on a regular basis, I kind of don't really bother putting them on there. So now we can see that we've got the actual mount on the bottom that holds together the 15mm rail. Again, it's a small rig item. So what I'm going to do is take the actual camera off the rail system. And there you can see you've got the top bit that the camera sits into, and that just tightens up like an arc of Swiss. The bottom part where I've attached a tripod plate purely for convenience, because 9 times out of 10 a camera this size is going to be on a tripod, and you've got the rail system. Now if I undo these, I can slide the rails out and break it down completely, but because I know that I'll be using that again soon, I'm just going to leave that as it is. But again, they're all small rig items, and I'll leave links in the description below. And there you go, so we're getting close to actually having the camera back again. So we've got the top handle here, which is another small rig item, and still got the monitor mount on the front of there. Now this monitor mount is actually mounted upside down from the way that it should go, but I like to keep the monitor fairly low to the lens and out of the way, purely from a point of view that I can then change the angle should I need to, and it isn't too top heavy. It isn't sat up here somewhere, it's actually a little bit better kind of weighted there. Also, you need to look at the balance of these kind of things, and I've got a lot of weight on the front, so with the battery and stuff on the back and all the other items, it kind of balances out quite nicely. Now with these small rig items, they're very, very modular. There's lots of like different things that you can do with them. The only issue that I have with this is that every now and then I need to take the top handle off the actual cage itself, and that requires you to just break it off with an Allen key. But again, one of the brilliant features with this particular top handle that I'm using is that the Allen key is actually stored in the side of the handle. So you're never far away from what you need. But I'm just going to loosen that off and taking that off, and as you can see, still got the monitor mount on there, but I'm going to leave that as it is, and pop the Allen key back in so I know where it is for next time. I think that's a really cool little design feature. Just shows a lot of like clever thinking with that, so I really like that. We'll pop that out of the way. So there you have the EOS-R, and this cage around it is another small rig item. This is the specific rig for the EOS-R. The only thing that you will see on there is I've actually just got the quick release plate for the Nucleus Nano. But I'm going to leave that attached to it. I don't need to take that off because I do use it on a regular basis, so I'll leave that as it is. So this cage can now come off the camera, and I've just got a little handy tool on my key ring just to break off that screw on the bottom. And once that's loose, the only slight issue with this cage is that you actually have to take the lens off the camera to then take the cage off, and obviously you want to pop the lens back on as quickly as you can, just so you don't run any kind of risk of damaging the sensor. And yeah, so there you have it, small rig cage for the EOS-R. Another great purchase. You can see all the different threading options and places where you can actually hang stuff off. So again, really impressed with that. And there you have the EOS-R, and that goes back to now just being used for stills and whatnot. And it really doesn't take long to actually build it back up for when I want to use it for production use and things. So there you have it. That's what my perfect cinema rig for the EOS-R would look like. And obviously we looked at all the individual items. Now it does have some upsides and some downsides. The upsides for me are basically this does everything that I need it to do. I've got redundancy with the video because we save into an external drive, redundancy with audio using the Mix Pre. I've got all of the items that I could possibly need, such as things like the follow focus, the power solution's great, and basically one of the biggest bonuses is it's modular. I don't need to take all of this with me. Having a cage to build from in the first place is a brilliant idea, but I could strip this down and just use a monitor, or strip it down and just have the battery pack attached. And being modular like that makes it really flexible for different jobs and different scenarios, which is a fantastic kind of starting point. Now, there are a few negatives to something like this, as always. One of the biggest problems is obviously going to be cost. This isn't cheap to build. However, when you compare some of the specs and what you might need to higher end cinema cameras, things like the Canon C300 and whatnot, you probably find that you're cheaper to add on the items that you need specifically, rather than pay for a load of things that you don't need that come already built into the C300. Now, I'm not saying that the EOS-R is a better cinema camera than the C300, but having that kind of, you know, adaptability is certainly a bonus when people like me are working on a budget. But it's still not a cheap item by any means, so, you know, you need to take a look and go, what do you honestly need? One of the other big downsides with something like this is obviously the physical size. Now, that's not going to slip into a camera bag very easily. I am going to have to break it down, and that always adds time to productions and things like that, which can be a bit of a pain, especially when you're battling against things like natural light and you're in a rush to get these things done. So having a good idea of what you're filming, you know, thinking about what items you honestly need to take with you and stuff beforehand is always going to be, you know, the best way to approach it. But a fully built out rig like this, once it's built, and if you can get away with carrying it around like that, then fantastic. But yeah, breaking it down can be quite time consuming and can slow you up in certain points. However, overall, I'm incredibly pleased with this. I think it does everything that I need it to do personally, and I'm really kind of, you know, there's not many other items that I feel that I would need to add to that to improve on it. I think the biggest thing would be is seeing what Canon actually do next in terms of the cameras that they launch, because hopefully we'll take away some of the need to have some of these additional items anyway. But that's all for the future. And talking of the future, if you'd like to see more of these kind of videos, please do hit the subscribe button. Leave a thumbs up if you found this useful, and by all means dive into the comments. Let me know your recommendations, what you'd add, what you'd take away. If you built something similar yourself, let me know how you've got on with it and how you're finding it as well. And hopefully I will catch you in another video, so I'll see you soon.